Yo, Chutes and Ladders. Just reminds me of something I just said. Hello and welcome. Right. I think we all got that. Spiritual advice from a Barbarian Lunatic again. I mean, this took me a while to get into. I'm just saying, I mean, I'm going wild at the moment. I haven't recorded a whole lot of the stuff that I actually did. I think I would just like to quickly show it to you, which is something I haven't really done, but that I've just started opening up to. Okay, now I have to see where I actually stopped. Okay, I don't think it really matters. I'm just going to change the window. I use OBS, by the way. Okay. I think if I do it like this, I think it should work. Okay, interesting. Yeah, this is the one I'm going to work on next. Okay, this is just point of reference. Okay, looking at this. Looking at this. Okay, we've all seen that. I'm actually not going to say a whole lot to these things. Well, I think it's obvious that this is childhood, but also the present moment. Okay. I've already shown that. Yeah, part of my room. You know, like these, once in a while, I would stagger upon a pile of lies. The longer I looked at others and disguise, I found that under layers of lies was that which lay hidden amongst that which ties. A mortal man to not one but countless of lies, that one may consider make a man biased. It's true, it's you, it's that which binds immortal soul and cosmic mind to dungeons deep and forests high. While I no longer feel the need to make up stories that will cheat the mission that I came to be free. Yeah. A need. What should I say to that? Once in a while, I would stagger upon a pile of lies. You know, it's just like sometimes you meet people and they tell you stories and somehow they don't really line up. They don't add up and you start wondering, wait, is that me that's confused? Or is there something wrong with the story that they're trying to tell me? The longer I looked at clothes and disguise, because people wear things to hide themselves, while I like to wear things to show who I truly am. I found that under layers of lies was that which lay hidden amongst that which ties. A mortal man to not one but countless of lies. So, what binds you to your own lies? I mean, the lie is what binds you to certain habits. Like, I need this, I need that. I need to be like this for people to like me. I need to be like this for people to stay away from me. Well, sometimes all it takes is actually a no. You don't always have to be super angry. Yeah, mortal man It's more, well, we're all gonna die, or so it seems. That one may consider make a man biased, because if you're restricted to the story you're telling yourself with your own lies, then you always have a very one-sided perspective. Why duality teaches us that there's always two sides to a story. You may have both of your sides inside of yourself, but if you want to be a family man, what this entire channel is basically about, how to be better with children and with your own child, and that's the message, right? You have to start with yourself. Because if you're biased and you hate this, you know, you can hate the state, you can acknowledge that because the state exists, you know, I can do this kind of work at the moment. So you also have to be flexible and never get sucked into, you know, I hate that guy or whatever, because we're all working with fear. So it's true, it's you, it's that which binds immortal soul and cosmic mind to dungeons deep and forests high. So dungeons deep and forests high are, of course, the valleys and the peaks of your own life. And what you have to do is, therefore, you know, always see both as the current challenge, because a high can be challenging and so can be a low. But in order to get to the high, you know, if I've learned anything from hiking, you have to work yourself through the low. You know, cosmic mind and immortal soul, and they're kind of trapped inside this body where you have to channel the energy and mold it together, but in a state of balance, which then is the yin and the yang, you know, equal blackness, equal whiteness, and then, you know, that's then one whole thing. So if you try to separate your dark stuff and your shadow, you're gonna miss out on a lot of the, you know, adventurous things in your life. And if you feed too much your shadow, you know, you're gonna live like, you know, I want to die really quick. So I like to keep it balanced. I like to do lightful things, and when I'm too like in bliss and like, oh, you know, there's nothing to do, then I do something that gets me to do something, because that's what life is then. Okay? While I no longer feel the need to make up stories that will cheat. You know, that's the lies you tell yourself, the mission that I came to be free. So if I want to be free, I have to free myself of the ideas I have of myself, to the degree that I, you know, remain. Okay, so you look at your life and you look at where you are, and maybe you get an idea, you know, where you could be in the future, but then you have to make certain choices. And these choices, you know, to me, if I want to be free, I need certain things. I also need a steady income, so I'm free of the dependency towards others. So I can make my own choices, I can buy food when I want and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, of course, having money or a lot of money by doing what you love may also be a trap. So for me, creating the Barbarian Lunatic, you know, I probably, when I did it, I probably didn't know it consciously, but somehow I wanted to create that guy. It was also a way to free myself of my normal identity, because now my job was doing interesting and crazy art stuff and showing to the world what kind of a lifestyle I was living. And because I had a camera with me, I always had the third person in the room, and that helped me to remain kind of, you know, not really passive, but, you know, I could chill in the presence of others, because I knew I could let it all out in my work. And that then made things a little bit more relaxing, or so I think. You know, I haven't really, because if I can basically redefine myself through my actions, then I can be free of, you know, saying with words who I am, or trying to create an image of myself, because the image is already clear through my actions, which is being basically true to your own dream, right? So, well, I no longer feel the need, because I let go of the need, but it certainly creeps back. But it has become much less strong, and I feel so strongly towards Amsterdam. And until I can get there, I have to do certain things, or so I feel, right? So what I need is a feeling. And then always comes, yeah, but how do you know that you're going to be, how do you know that, let's just get into this a little. It's interesting. I didn't think I was doing this, but I think I did, I just try to forget it. How would you know what your dream is if you never asked for it? And why would you never ask for it? Because you're probably afraid. That if you ask for your dream, it may be too big for you. But the dream is always there. And not, reaching out to it may create a lot of sadness in yourself because you're denying yourself the one thing that you want. And that's so hard because if it's not there right now, you feel always inclined to let go of the dream so that you can have something right now. But let's say in terms of a partner, maybe you've already met the perfect partner and you are willing to sacrifice a family life because you say, if it's not that partner, then it's none. And that takes a certain amount of determination because you do give up on control, but you also say, I've learned from my life that although I can see, I can love people, basically everyone, I don't have to be in the same room with them all the time. And I spend a lot of time in my room, which is why I would need a woman that would like to also spend time with me in my room. And that's then what would be the perfect match for me, right? If I would be, with a woman that always wants to go to the outside and doesn't really give a crap about me, then I don't think I would really like this. I don't know. I would like a woman that just has my back so I can do what I do, but I also have her back, of course. Which is why, sure, if she says, let's do this, I'm going to make space for it. But I really feel like I'm being drawn towards a different place, and that's why I refuse to give up on this work. But also refuse to give up on this place because what I say is, the work I'm doing, I think, already helps people, and I'm doing it here. But I also would like to have vacations and leave. I can live here, I think. But there are also times, I think, where I just want to be somewhere else. Because that's important for me. I like to travel, but I have given up on traveling for a long time now, and sometimes I'm afraid it won't come back to me. Just as listening to Ram Dass has taught me that, I would be afraid to have a male guru, which is why I started to staying away from men to attract this one very specific woman into my life. And so while I no longer feel the need to make up stories that will cheat the mission that I came to be free, but I also don't want to be a sucker to this woman because I can't have her control me, while in a certain sense I would like her to restrict and restrain me. And I think she has managed that even from a great distance because she's always right here. And it's hard to remember this, but it's also hard to forget that, is it really true that she's there and I'm communicating with her on a telepathic level? Because until now, what I see is that I'm alone in this room. And that loving people is really painful. And even, being loved by people, because if people don't know how to love you, they're just going to give you shit all the time because maybe that's what they think love looks like because that's how they've been treated all their life. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why I'm doing this now. Okay, in me, let's just, just lead over because they're also kind of connected all. Giant conundrum, he's empty inside. With what should I fill him to keep him alive? To mold him and steal him away from his wife and turn him to something that never was mine. Afraid to be butchered by anger of man, I turned to the silence that I found within. The dream I was living turned nightmare, and eyes that haunt me in daylight and turned me to ice were driving me onward to that which I saw, a vision of living in freedom on shores. Myself has envisioned a dream with no end, turn nightmare to heaven and turn down the friend that steals away children from mothers and deals drugs like a father that has no more means than slaving away those that are too nice. No longer was I to follow their lies. I learned enough, they made me tough. I'm ready to follow my spirit, the dove. Okay, there's a lot of stuff in there which is experience. So a need. The question is, why do I call it a need? Because what does this talk about? Well, when I talk about it now, I can actually declutter it. But, you know, when I write it, I often don't really know what I'm writing about, because what I'm working with is an emotion. And then how I usually do it, I sit down, I probably smoke something, and then, you know, I just see what wants to come out. And often, actually, I also listen to music. You know, sometimes I listen to NF, Chris Webby. That's what I listen to basically most at the moment. I do feel like Chris Webby is a bit more mature, but only in some ways. You know, NF feels to me like he's identifying too much with his audience. But yeah, that's maybe just how you deal with your inner child, but I think it's a bit too much. And Chris Webby is, of course, just really wild. I'm the more restrained version, probably, of both of them, with certainly a lot of darkness, but also the ability to transform it into light. Which is why if I make an intense experience and I feel like people were trying to use me to do something, I'm never sure whether this is actually, you know, was it bad that that happened? You know, was this like, were they trying to, I don't know, cart me off to some dungeon or dump me in the woods? You know, sometimes I was afraid people would rape me or something. So I'm not quite sure what this actually means, because sometimes you may feel like you're being raped, but you're not going to be raped like, it's more like emotional rape. It's, you know, you sit in the presence of angry people who hate you, who may be jealous of you, or, you know, who are just in a bad place, you know, whatever. And your presence and your, you know, you being there and showing them how good you feel while you're still struggling may give them the feeling they want to, you know, dump on you because you're too nice. And then you try it, you keep going back and you keep going back, but they just keep dumping on you and try to control you and try to use you, you know, because if you meet with friends and they know, oh, if I give him a psychedelic substance, he's going to get really riled up and he's going to, you know, make like interesting things happen for me. But then you realize, well, is that really how a father would live, to just be like a leapdog for others that can control him with drugs? And that's probably the story my life turned into, that I would always go back to the people that had drugs and then ask them to give me some. And I would also buy them. And that's certainly what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to stop. And that's a great challenge. I have reduced it. And then, of course, there's also the question, maybe I do need these things because I keep going back to sugar and coffee. And I have gone back to meat. Certainly chicken, you know, is something that is able to feed me and to quench my thirst that, you know, I would like a woman to do actually, but maybe that's just part of my true personality, which turns the barbarian lunatic, of course, into my savior. Because if he can show me the true self, which is the wish to get back to the way life used to be, you know, like alone in the woods, you know, pushing through. And at the moment, how I'm pushing through is on the inside, because the outside was a bit too hectic for me. So giant conundrum, you know, that's life. He's empty inside, right? I was empty. I was emptied in nature, and then I had to be careful what to fill myself with again. I was also emptied in psychedelic experiences from, you know, what I was clinging to. So, you know, I can say they tried to control me, but I can also say, you know, they helped me to push on. For whatever reason, maybe because they saw something in me or they believed in me. I think the feeling that I'm being controlled at the moment is, you know, I cannot be restrained because I have jobs to do. This, you know, if I wouldn't stay inside alone and speak with nobody, this could not come out. I'm just saying why it's important, you know, I'm actually not empty, I'm full, but I'm not sure if people notice that. With what should I fill him to keep him alive? To mold him and steal him away from his wife? Yeah, okay, maybe that was also me. You know, it's like trying to have friends. And then, you know, meeting fathers that have children and a wife already, and you want to spend time with them. That's actually stealing people. Because who am I to think that you need a friend, right? I think you can do it by yourself. And turn him to something that never was mine. Okay, that's just, you know, trying to, you know, that's what friends often do. You know, everybody wants to be the leader. But at a certain age, I don't think that works anymore. I know I just want to leave this place. Still, that's an ongoing thing. While at the same time, I feel like I'm being restrained to stay here, and whether I'm just being refrained to stay here so that I can move on at a later stage, or whether I just have to stay here all my life, I think that's why I'm working like this. Because I drop as much of the energy that I have inside of me actually into creating this YouTube channel so that I can flee this, you know, whatever Germany is kind of reality. So afraid to be butchered by anger of man, I turn to the silence that I found within. That's just what I said. Angry man try to use me because, you know, I feel like I'm in peace. I turn to the silence that I found within, which is why I'm alone in my room. The dream I was living turned nightmare and eyes that haunt me in daylight and turned me to ice, you know, kind of froze me, too much fear, you know. Like White says it in Tekonking Creek. Very good movie, black and white, genius. Yeah, sure, a bit childish, but also a bit like some of the scripting I did not like. It's just how it is, but I really could see some parallels. Because instead of looking for, you know, if I'm white and I'm looking for black on the outside, you know, I don't know what he does when I'm not around. But if I'm just myself, I'm just white and I've got black inside, then I can actually learn to hold my own space instead of always looking for friends. Yeah, the dream I was living turned nightmare and eyes that haunt me in daylight and turned me to ice were driving me onward to that which I saw, a vision of living in freedom on shores. So that's just my wish to get away from here to the beautiful city of Amsterdam, or at least its surroundings. To be open about these things always feels really vulnerable, but I think all you can do is talk about it and see what comes out of it. Plus, I don't think a lot of people would watch it to that point without actually wanting me to succeed, because who would listen to such rantings unless someone who really wanted to learn something from me? So I think that's just a symptom of faith to speak openly about your visions. And I just got a kind of a blowback, or so it seems, which is, I'm running out of money. I've got 70 euros left at the moment, which is right now. Well, you saw the time in the beginning. No, does it really matter? Things are happening. I think today is the 7th of November, somewhere around 12 or 11. 12:27. Okay. So I'm also starting to pay more attention to the time again. But I have a weird schedule anyway. So I was trying to read Harry Potter again, but I don't know, it's just I just listened to one of the episodes of Goosebumps. I just hated the writing. I don't know why. I just can't read anymore. But this I can read, because it's myself and I understand it. So, people that scared me also pushed me on, because what was dying in their presence, right? What was dying in their presence? It was the me that I used to remember, that wanted to move on from here. They wanted to, stand on a stage and talk in front of people about fear and about, the life that he sees, about transformation, about art, make like an art center, teach people art. This is what I could envision. And that would then be the Love Our Children Foundation. But what I find here is just like, I could be a visitor. I don't know, I just really think, for me, I love the ocean. I could just go there every day. And, if this is something I can work for, just be on the ocean, which is why I love the movie Children of the Sea. And the original title, the tidal wave of your own life or something. Now I'm getting back to watching it again. It's called Kaiju no Kodomo. Also Kaijw, 2 U's, no, and then Kodomo. Children of the Sea. I think it's not a very famous movie, but it certainly works for me. It's really good. Okay. Myself has envisioned a dream with no end, because it just continues. Turn nightmare to heaven. And that's of course also the spirit why you would drop stuff on the internet, because you want your message to persist into the future. Of course, who knows how long this is going to exist, but I have the feeling that this stuff is going to stay around for a while. And if I'm creating it now, I'm also creating it, of course, for the past and the future at the same time, because everything happens at the same time. And if I'm in myself and I kind of dabble with oneness, then I can have conversations with Terence McKenna. And when I listen to him, I kind of open a portal to him. Which is why if I listen to Chris Webby, I can have a conversation with him. Whether that is really him then, which, is for me still hard to understand, or just a projection of myself into the character of Chris Webby, and then understanding, in what parts I actually like to be similar and in what parts I would like to be different from him. So the part of just screwing around with women is something I want to be different of. In that sense, I would probably more try to orient myself with NF, who has a wife and child, but his private life is too much, with children. I want to be with adults. I don't want to give concerts for children. I don't think I want to give concerts at all. I just want to stand on the stage and give some kind of show, and just stand there and just do my thing and engage with people, and just see what's gonna come out of it. And that's why the ocean for me is the best place to be, actually, because I can just take a dip and cleanse myself. And that's the safest way, I think, if you work with stuff like this. That's just how it, Oh yeah, alright. Turn nightmare to heaven and turn down the friend that steals away children from mothers and deals drugs like a father that has no more means than slaving away those that are too nice. okay, yeah, if you're too nice and then you meet people and they give you drugs and you're like, yeah, you know, spread your good mood, your good vibe, you know, they take it and do something else with it. But the question is, what do they do and why do they need your strength? So it's always better to just encourage people to be strong themselves. And that's what I had to learn, because if you take psychedelics, you feel strong and you feel like heightened awareness and, you know, higher consciousness. And it's like, wow, I feel really good. And that's why my goal was always to learn how to get into these states with as little as possible, which is why I do not have to take harder and harder drugs. I had my fair share of ayahuasca ceremonies and I was in good hands, but I also said at one stage, I don't need this anymore because I can blast off in a coffee. And I don't have to be, you know, I don't have to be super restrained with this. I mean, I could open up to these things again, but at the moment I just feel like I just want to be my own man. And coffee works. You know, there's weird stuff. I'm never advertising these things, but I have smoked THC with tobacco. I'm never sure why, but when I in the end sit here and speak like this, then, you know, did I need to smoke this? Could I have just, you know, breathed? How much does it change my personality? So I've met people who just hand out drugs to people. They never really take responsibility, because if you just give people drugs, I mean, what you should do is teach them how to eat, how to live, how to speak, probably even how to sleep, how to engage with themselves. Because if you just give the drugs and then let them work, you know, that's just slavery again. But I always talk about everything that I do in order to survive as a spiritual entity that is being harvested by other people into, you know, making themselves feel better. You know, that's like grandfathers or grandparents being at home and like, you know, wasting away in front of the TV, and then suddenly, you know, their children come with the grandchildren, and it's like, you know, a 2-year-old like, you know, and then grandfathers come like, you know, it's like, I think people should be less greedy for the energy of others or the presence of others, and just learn to be alone by themselves and then just do something. And I get it. I mean, not everybody has to smoke. If you feel stressed, then figure out what you actually wanted to do. Because usually when I felt stress, I actually wanted to do other things, but I just felt drawn somewhere else. So if I remember correctly, the way it used to be when I studied, you know, when I did things that I liked, you know, instead of studying, you know, I went out with friends and we did stuff, I always felt ashamed that I didn't study. But I studied life. But I still felt like terrible about not learning more stuff by heart and reading all the scripts. And, you know, I actually don't quite know how I got through university. You know, I had friends that helped me, certainly. And it was a hard lesson to let these friends go, because I had to, I don't know, be kind of responsible with myself. But I absolutely acknowledge that, okay, it's not entirely true. I studied, okay, for most of my life, I accepted help from others. I still accept help from others because I believe in something. And because I believe in something, I can say no to people who give me drugs to have me do their work. Because I have my own dream and I know where I want to be, right? And so if I'm now in an area, let's say, you know, now I'm in Germany in this city called Lunatic, and where I want to be is somewhere where I can speak English more, which is why I listen to English music, which is why I also listen to English people who talk. And I also listen to myself, I engage with myself entirely in English all the time. I have conversations in English in my mind. And at the age of, I think it was in grammar school, just like 1st to 4th grade, and I think I entered school at 6 or 7. I always thought I was too young because I looked small. I still think I look small, but on the inside I'm really big, and it's starting to show now because I've put in the work also on the outside, because I alleviated the weight that I had on the inside, which was, if you're born empty as a child, people come and fill you with their own emotions, which is why usually parents feel really good as long as their children are like small and they can dump on them and, tell them what to do. But when the child gets older and the parents are, so you have to be strong for yourself. You can't just be strong for your child. You also have to be strong for yourself, and that's self-respect, that's self-love, that's dignity. To hold yourself as strong as you can, and then from that place where you can actually manage to hold yourself, and then you find a woman that can hold herself, and then suddenly you're like, bam, let's get together and have children, and really have a blast. Okay, I'm still waiting for that one. I'm actually not sure when am I going to be strong enough. When am I going to be strong enough? Are we ever going to get back together, or is she just going to be living her life? I don't know. You don't really know what somebody else is doing, while I feel like I can see into the distance away from myself towards others. It's like looking at a shadow or like a washed out image of something, like a really blurry camera recording. Imagine like this, but smaller, and then you try to enlarge it, but it's always just gonna stay blurry. And because you don't just have one heart connection, you have several, you're never sure whose emotions you're feeling or whose thoughts you're hearing. Because if I'm here alone, why should I feel distress? Okay, I do feel distress because, what if something terrible happens and I'm being thrown out? Or what if, my work is being taken negatively? Is somebody going to come and, file a report? Is the police going to storm into here, or some kind of SWAT team? Is somebody trying to hurt me? Because, all these kinds of ideas that we always have about certain things. And because I feel so heavy with all these emotions and all the weight, because if I look today on the 7th of November, I have no idea how many followers I would have. But I'm here alone in my room, I have no internet. Which is why the anxiety of screwing up online, which is basically my whole life saving out there, I'm constantly being hammered with the fear that, maybe my publisher starts seeing, my work as a nuisance, and they would just like get rid of them all. Or people I met on the streets who, hate me because they can see me online, they just see me and they think, what an asshole. And they just want to kill me. You don't know about these things. But that's the fear I'm feeling, which is why I started to leave the house less. Because at the moment, it's just too much to carry, If I'm out in the open, I turn into some kind of victim. And then you do understand how Gandhi would have felt like. And how he probably feels right now. And you see yourself in a position where you say, I advocate peace, but people are so angry, they want to take the peace out of my cold dead hands, because me being so peaceful draws out all their anger. So that's how transformation works, transmutation. You're in the room, you become a channel, you open your heart, and everybody connects with it. But that means sometimes things get stuck in yourself. And there's always a cost involved. And that's what I feel to be true very much, which is, people give me food, but for that I have to work with their emotions. If I eat your food, I'm going to connect with you. I was once in a position where there were like caramelized almonds, like the ones you get on Christmas markets in Germany. I don't know how this is in other countries, but that's a classic for Christmas markets and for a fair, like a carnival. Candied food, so you're used to sugar. I'm used to sugar. For me, it's almost impossible to live without it. I don't even want to live without it. And it certainly keeps me happy because life is kind of depressing. Which is why, of course, I was always kind of a dark, depressed, but then, could switch to light and people never got it. Which is why, people like to have me around, but that's why I started to feed my shadow so I can have a bit of teeth, which is clearly what I have, what's inspiring my art. So, yeah, people did give me drugs, but I also did these things on my own. They gave me, 300 micrograms, which is a Hoffman dosage, 3 drops of like really pure, good quality LSD. And I went alone at night into the woods. And I just came out smiling. And, that's like, what the heck? Why am I sitting on the shore with 3 guys, like including myself, and that guy, takes the highest dosage and just jumps off into the night. It was intense. I mean, the kind of stuff that I saw, which is why I learned, it's not just the drug, because people were taking the same drugs I took. But I started making really different choices fast. And that's what Terence McKenna is talking about. I mean, if you want to reach sainthood, you just have to take mushrooms a lot. Yeah, in a short period of time, but what you have to understand, if mushrooms or psychedelics dissolve boundaries and you ingest really strong psychedelic substances, who are you gonna be in the end? Because, if you stop taking the substance, you're gonna get back to the ground level and you're going to have to live in a state of acceptance because, this is what your life looks like now. What you experienced during the high was a vision of how it could be, of how you could feel. Oh wow, I can feel this good. And then you have to use your mind to understand how you can get from the place at the low, so that's the trough, that's the valley, back to the peak. But then you realize if I only live on the peak, there are very few people there. So sometimes you go back to the valley and you discover other people, and then you just hike back to the peak and you leave it to the people. Because if you go to the valley today and you say, hello, how's it going? You just give a smile to someone and then you just move on your way, then these people can struggle up their own peaks because, if you're like Reinhold Messner or something, whoever, you're not gonna sit around waiting for others to come hiking with you. You just go hiking. And so maybe I think his name was Reinhold Messner. Maybe I'm that guy of art, or of going within, or of discovering new things about myself because I seclude myself from everyone else and I practice how can I teach myself my own style of yoga. Which is why I'm not teaching a school of yoga. I call it monkey yoga, you can call it golem yoga. But you can also call it whatever you want, and then you can just figure out how it works for yourself. Because I have a different nature, I have a different perspective because of my own experiences. Different things work for me. If you would make a coffee like I just did in these, Arabic, I'm going to show you in one of my next recordings. So I added sugar, water, first water, then cloves, 5 or 6 cloves. I boiled it a little, and cinnamon, Sometimes I put nutmeg in, but that's like, okay, quite tough. And sometimes I put cardamom in, but now I did cloves, cinnamon, and then sugar. And then quite a bit of sugar, like, let's say 3 teaspoons. Good teaspoons. And then coffee, and the coffee has also already some spices in there, including nutmeg, including, I'm not sure what, including a bit of cocoa. And it's just the coffee I have from these Nespresso things, which I got from someone who, you know, got them from the shops because they, you know, they save food from the shops that would otherwise be thrown away because it's out of date. And I have a whole, you know, like a whole tray of coffee, Nespresso from Starbucks. And then these capsules. And there's a paper wrapping, and then 6 or 7 of these capsules, or maybe make it 9, I'm not sure. And I have lots of these. And that's what keeps me going, right? So I feel like I need coffee when I'm alone at home and I do these things because I feel it heavy and it helps me, it motivates me. But if I drink it too much, it starts to lose its touch, which is why I can only keep smoking and drinking coffee and staying inside for a certain amount of time before I need to also know how it is like to be on the outside again. But yeah, anyway, so, you know, drugs seem like they help, but at a certain point it's better to just stay where you are, which is then the middle. It's like a weird habit of eating, smoking, drinking coffee, then eating meat. You know, it's like all intuitive stuff. So I work myself through the lows by ingesting food. So now I have still, you know, yesterday I made a 1 liter batch of black tea. Okay, black tea. Lots of ginger, like lots of ginger. I would say 2 tablespoons, two heaped tablespoons of cut ginger, sliced ginger, fresh ginger. Black tea, 2 teaspoons of leafy black tea from the Turkish store. You know, I'm starting with the black tea. 2 teaspoons, heaped teaspoons of black tea from the Turkish store, leafy black tea. It's like a 1 kilo package for €7. It works for me. Then 2, what is it? Okay, we've got the black tea. We've got 2 heaped tablespoons of cut ginger, sliced ginger into like slices, not like, you know, I'm just saying. Then I have, okay, 1 tea bag. You know, normally I would use sweetwood, which I would put probably now 1 good teaspoon of sweetwood into there. But I took a tea bag from chai tea with spices, and there is a bit of sweetwood in there, I assume. And then I put a bit of coriander pods, cumin pods, cloves, but just a bit. And that then I let sit for a couple of hours. Like now it's sat through the whole night in this hot 1 liter good thermos bottle. And then I drink it, and that pushes me. You know, so I start my day then maybe with a coffee. I already prepare some food. You know, so I can do this heavy stuff because what I'm talking about are deep emotions, and I often feel nausea. And so I just stay away from people that, you know, manipulate me with their drugs because I rather leave it here in this. No longer was I to follow their lies. I learned enough. They made me tough. I'm ready to follow my spirit, the dove. You know, I'm being guided somewhere else. Or so I hope. That's just what I feel. What's it gonna be in the end? it's hard to say because I'm also afraid to make mistakes. Certainly afraid to make mistakes. And sometimes I think, you know, why should I be allowed to go back to the general area of Amsterdam? I mean, you cannot understand how much I loved this area. This is so strange. So what do you really need? I don't know. What do the people need? I think everybody needs to do what they want. And because I like to engage with myself in English, I also want to teach in English. Because the people I meet here, they're completely shut off from the rest of the world. Which is why, okay, I either stay here and be the connection for that, or I just say, you know what, I think what you all want is just to do what you want. And I can keep you as friends, but work-wise, I'm just going to be somewhere else. At least for some time, right? And maybe that's the point, you know, if I do this for 10 years, you know, then afterwards I can do something else. You know, maybe that's the good thing. You just say, okay, I'm going to do YouTube for 10 years, or I'm going to do these things for 10 years and then I'm going to stop. Is it possible? Well, I cannot see how I could continue to maintain such a high workload while at the same time what I have to realize is that I'm working, you know, I mean, this is being recorded in November, but it's going to be released in June or maybe July. It's hard to remember right now where I'm at now. But, you know, I think we can all agree that that's a, you know, I'm trying to fill the entire year before the end of this year. So I can have a whole year off, and that's only half true, of course. Because when I have this year in the bag, like 2024, I mean, then what am I gonna do next year in 2025? You know, am I to maintain daily videos, or should I just turn it into weekly? That's a good question. Because while I'm doing this, I cannot write my book, which is what I want, which is why I want to be a writer. But as long as I don't see, you know, YouTube bringing me book sales, which is partly why I'm doing all of this, to raise awareness for my own existence so that people can connect with me if they wanted to. And for that, I first have to teach them, you know, that I'm true, that I really mean this, you know. Okay, school of thought, stuck inside a prison, never going back. Just a thought, what is this? Maybe back to bed. Reality is angry, and so are evil men. A concept in your mind may have you feeling bad. Thoughts of angry children, the Lord of Flies is back. When I am out here living, then I might lose my track. In truth, I'm never hungry, but truth will never stay unless I start to listen, let go of angry men, and open up to children that really understand that thoughts are naught but concepts that keep you trapped inside, that got you down to worship and pray inside your mind. I rather worship living. I try to be unkind. I think of happy children and love my parents back, right? And sometimes I don't care about rhymes anymore, which is why things like, you say stepped inside, but inside, sometimes these things also come back, but you know, it's more about the idea. So stuck inside a prison, never going back. Just a thought, what is this? Maybe back to bed. What is this? I often think, what is this? It's weird, but it's also, it could be nice. Reality is angry and so are evil men. A concept in your mind may have you feeling bad. It's just a concept. Because you hold on to the idea this is how things have to be. I don't know how things have to be at the moment, but they are the way they are. And so if I think the way things are is bad, then I will probably really go back to bed and feel depressed. But I'm actually in the best position to change myself and to look forward to also being with someone else and to go back to bed with a woman, which at the moment I can hardly imagine. I mean, just the thought of being naked with a woman is really strange because I cannot imagine it in its entirety because it's too big and too complex to envision someone else that you haven't seen for a very long time. I mean, it's almost impossible to... I mean, if you haven't been intimate with a woman for such a long time, which for me is now more than a year, and you haven't even really tried. And now in my position, I haven't watched porn in such a long time that, I actually have started to get used to not watching it. Which is why I could actually think if I would have internet now again in this apartment, I think it would be alright. I think it would be alright, but maybe it's better to keep it like this, because if I would have internet here, I would have probably filled my days with watching other things. And now because the only things I have are the ones I already watched in the form of DVDs and Blu-rays, I can't really run away from myself that much, because it's just getting boring, right? Okay, thoughts of angry children, the Lord of Flies is back. You can see children as vicious creatures that will, do crazy stuff, but you can also see the beauty of children as in Peter Pan, maybe, like wild and wanting to discover things, wanting to experience things, but also want to be protected. So... But I do think we need these kind of children as in Lord of Flies, and I think that's what society is starting to show us also, that we all also have to be strong for each other, and that not everyone can be a leader, and whether or not you can lead is something that your life will show you. But you can only lead people if they trust you. And then the question, of course, remains, do I want to be a leader? Because what I started to realize that I could never trust anyone enough. That's like the really weird thing. I seem tough. I seem like I have it all together sometimes. But I certainly feel like I'm not the guy who's in the front. I'm more like in the back. I don't have to stand out all the time. And if people want me to stand out, they will probably turn me into some kind of Hitler, which is the truth. And that's why I rather do this just like this. And I just say, let's just see what's going to happen in my life. Because the direction is, somewhat unclear. I mean, I'm just going somewhere, but you never know what's gonna happen. Is somebody gonna call me? Do I really have a wife, or is it just something? Is that just a concept that helps me to continue and to move on because I just need to feel like I'm doing it for something or someone, and that there is some kind of reward in the end? Because I'm certainly looking forward to different times, and that's a fact, because I also know what life is like. or can be like, if you know what I mean. Okay, lose my track. Okay, when I'm out here living, then I might lose my track, and my track is forward. But if I'm always holding back because there's other people that I think need my help, then, you know, I'm like this, and then I'm being pulled apart. So I'd rather do like this, and then, you know, just continue. In truth, I'm never hungry, but truth will never stay. Yeah, when I'm in truth, I feel like I have everything. But I lose it, and then I eat food to feel like that again, you know, because maybe the truth was I was hungry. Unless I start to listen, let go of angry men. So yeah, start to listen, let go of angry men. Just let go of them, man. Bruce Webster seems to be really, really angry, but he's certainly starting to change. Maybe he's starting to make amends. I still think, you know, I'm not trying to be like super skinny, so I'm still trying to live, which is why I like to cook for myself also. Also like to eat with others. I have really experimented, and you know, I used to have concepts about food and meat and what to eat and what. I don't eat usually fast food. I may eat pizza. I just boycott, or I just say no to McDonald's and such places, just because it's just trying to create an image that it's not. And if I go to a local, you know, place that makes like fries and pizza and sausages, I mean, that's like quite honest. If it's not a franchise or a chain, because that's just, it's not trying to be something it's not, it's just what it is. And that's why, in a way, I like this city. It's not trying to be like Amsterdam or something, but any city could probably turn into their own version of Amsterdam, which is why I'm often uncertain where I should leave my energy. Should I leave it here where there are people that actually help me, or should I leave it somewhere else? And I think occasional visits to your hometown are probably best. Yeah, because I felt good in Amsterdam. I really have to say that. Whether it would be like this right now, I'm not sure, but this is really like, oh, it's a tough place, but at the same time, in terms of altitude, this is much higher, 400 meters above Amsterdam. Now, I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to have male friends, or whether male friends take me away from my own purpose. But I do feel like collaborations are nice. I'm certainly starting to become much more distant with other men. It's a weird place to be in. That's all I have to say to that. But as long as they're angry, whatever. And open up to children that really understand that thoughts are not but concepts that keep you trapped inside. Yeah, so you also want to retreat out of yourself. That get you down to worship and pray inside your mind. You know, I pray through life. You know, sometimes I retreat to the inside, but then I come out of myself and I speak, and that's why I record these things. I rather worship living. I try to be unkind. I think of happy children and love my parents back, right? Yo, dial my mind. It always says, just be careful what you wish for. Because people certainly do dial my mind, but I can also shut them out. Careful what you wish for. Yeah, I think I would fit right into Amsterdam. But it's impossible. I think the thing about big cities is also because there are more people, it's harder to. Plus, they are quite relaxed despite all the tourists. I just like it there. Why do I have to explain this to myself? You know, everybody wants to be somewhere. Okay, that's just art. You see, I'm just choosing what I want. And I want to speak with people that actually understand what I'm doing. Okay, now I have done these. You want to ask me how often I want to give up? Want to, need to, got to, have to. Honestly, what's the matter right now? I'm on it, that's all, you know. I'm moving on. I created the Barbarian Lunatic because Christopher would have needed time out right now. Be who you were meant to be. You know, Christopher's also the guy that was always, you know, he's like the sun and all that kind of stuff. But the Barbarian Lunatic can basically do whatever he wants. So it's just of creating an alter ego for yourself and seeing, you know, just keeping the Christopher as the manager of the Barbarian Lunatic. That's actually an interesting thought. Would have never had that if I wouldn't have talked about it. It's like lots of different layers worked into one image, and then flipping around these filters, and then suddenly it's like this, and you say, I like it. If chess was predictable, then why even play, son? I play chess the entire time, son. I am chessing my own life. Yeah, sounds really interesting, but you know, however proud you might feel about yourself or your achievements, you know, not everybody has everything together all the time. What emotions are burning inside of myself? I just liked the image and wanted to show that there's a furnace inside of me, which is why some people had to experience that it's better to not trigger this. I'm just saying, right? If you start, then you gotta promise yourself that you never give up, you know. While I'm making these things, I actually hate them. I'm honest about this, I actually hate them. Because sometimes it's just so dishonest. Because I don't actually feel it. But at the same time, it's also quite disarming. Yeah, it's just something that looks nice. I actually feel better afterwards. This one's called Something with a Shadow. Actually, this image, and then I changed it around, and then turned it into this, and then changed the colors, and then see this, like, that's the bird. This one's called I Love My Wife. So there's still a part of me that thinks that I have a wife, but at the same time I'm not so sure, which is probably, you know, if she does exist, it's probably part of her plan so she can track me down like a hound dog and then get me to understand how she feels about me. You know, that's just something that I think may happen. But when I see it, I also think, am I really interested? Well, if I'm a wolf, then I'm certainly looking for a wolf lady. And I'm kind of a lone wolf, which is why my wife should be a lone wolf too, so we can, you know, create our own pack together. This I really like. I mean, that just came out. I mean, this is really nice. Of course, now I haven't recorded how I did these. You may doubt that I actually did them, but I mean, what can I say to that? how much more can I prove to others that I do these things, by myself? So I don't always feel like recording it because it distracts me from myself, because I'm being sucked into. If the camera's running, I feel the need to talk. Because while in the presence of others, I really also like to talk. I'm learning to be more silent. Yeah, again and again, again and again, again and again, again and again. It's every time you stop, you have to say, again. Just do it again. Just do something else again, And that's probably how having sex works. If you want to know how to have sex with each other, you have to have sex. Because you can't have a family without sex. But to just have sex, to have a family, for me it's also, if I am with this woman, it's also to keep practicing sex as a form of communication. Instead of talking about all these things, you just connect through spirit directly, and then you have a conversation in yourself, and you both get your jobs. It's like, do this, and then you recharge yourself with each other in a peaceful environment. And that's what I often wonder about. How is it when there's children, but you have no space? Is it actually acceptable if parents have sex in the same room the children are in? And until what age could you do it like this? That to me is a very valid question. Is it indecent, is what I'm asking. Because I have no idea about these things. But what's so terrible about parents having sex? Because maybe you don't want your child to identify with seeing you having sex, so they can figure it out for themselves. But if a child sees his parents having sex, then you know how to do it yourself later on. I find it weird, because I still see a child as something separate. I think it's better to, I don't know. I think that's something you have to discuss with your wife or something, or with your child. In the periphery of my life, I could have said what I said when I said it. I could have had what I had when I had it. I could have seen what I saw, but I never saw it. I was the man that I was, please control me. I am wild, I am on, I have not left. I saw the truth that I see cause I stepped on it. I feel free cause I failed at being dishonest. I left none and prepared myself to get on it. I stood at the edge and I felt like a child. Jump, dive, run, hide, walk, talk, smile, cry. Do what you need, but remember the lies that helped you to get here. Without them, you'd have failed. So once in a while, maybe it's best to drop all your clothes and get back into bed. Forget all the hate, but remember the love. Be patient and wonder what's wrong in your life and why any someone would ruin your strive. The words I am writing are mine and they're yours. Emotions are waves of energy that flush away or keep you trapped. So surf them. Surfing keeps you on top. Never forget the paddling, that's all. Yeah, I don't like these things when they get too cheesy. Time is a flying, we feel all those. Yeah, I also don't mean it's so repetitive in the end. I don't like words so much, to be honest. This one I really liked. Came out really nice. Somebody, here we come. I think there's a better way to getting there than smoking, to be honest. Because, you leave that guy behind to go into there, but then you go back into this. So maybe it's better to just keep your center here instead of having it there. Just be your own center all the time. But that could of course also be the observer. So I'm still learning to do these things without all these things. Silence, poetry, and listening. That was the last one. Snakes No Heart, that's from Ronda's. Hakuna Matata, we all know what that is. I really like how these images are starting to come out. Fungus in my mind. Yo. Let's that for some time.